Have you ever looked around your life and quietly asked yourself a question you never said out loud? How did I get here? Not because your life is falling apart. Not because everything is terrible. But because somewhere deep inside you, there is a voice that refuses to believe this is all your life was meant to become. Let me tell you something. The most dangerous place a human being can live is not in failure. It is in comfort that slowly steals ambition. It is waking up every morning, doing the same things, thinking the same thoughts, carrying the same excuses, until one day you realize years have disappeared while your dreams remained exactly where you left them. Think about this for a moment. Life rarely changes because of one dramatic event. It changes because of the principles you practice when nobody is watching. The world celebrates moments. Life rewards habits. Those are two completely different things. I met a man years ago who spent nearly 25 years working in the same small repair shop. Every day he unlocked the same door before sunrise. Every evening he locked it after sunset. People believed he had accepted an ordinary life. They felt sorry for him, but they misunderstood him. Because while everyone saw routine, he saw preparation. Every day before work, he spent 1 hour learning something new. Not because anyone asked him, not because anyone would promote him, not because anyone applauded him, simply because he made a decision. He refused to become the same person 2 days in a row, 1 hour every single morning. At first, nothing changed. His income stayed the same. His house stayed the same. His old truck still made strange noises. His friends laughed. Why are you studying? You're too old. You'll never use that. What difference will 1 hour make? Interesting question. What difference does 1 hour make? Here's what most people don't understand. 1 hour never changes your life. Thousands of hours do. One workout doesn't transform a body. One book doesn't transform a mind. One conversation doesn't transform a relationship. But every transformation you've ever admired began with something that looked completely insignificant. That's the mystery of life. Greatness always hides inside ordinary actions. Success is whispers before it ever shouts. The tree that eventually provides shade for generations begins as something a child could accidentally step on without noticing. Your future works exactly the same way. People keep searching for dramatic breakthroughs. Life keeps offering quiet disciplines. And because those disciplines appear ordinary, people ignore them. Years later, they wonder why extraordinary results never arrived. I learned something years ago. Most people overestimate what they can do in 1 month, then underestimate what they can become in 10 years. Think about that. Someone decides to learn a new skill. After 3 weeks, they say, this isn't working. Someone starts exercising. 2 weeks later, no visible results. Someone begins saving money. 3 months later, what's the point? Because we have become addicted to immediate evidence. But principles don't reward impatience. Principles reward consistency. Imagine placing 1 drop of water onto a stone. Nothing happens. Another drop, still nothing. 1,000 drops, the stone appears unchanged. 10,000 drops later, the stone begins carrying the signature of persistence. Not because water became stronger, because consistency defeated resistance. Your character forms exactly like that. Your confidence develops exactly like that. Your discipline grows exactly like that. Not through intensity, through repetition. Let me ask you something. If someone handed you $1 million today, would your life change? Of course. But only temporarily if your principles remain the same. Because money amplifies character. It doesn't replace it. A person without discipline simply finds larger ways to become distracted. A person without wisdom simply makes more expensive mistakes. A person without purpose simply feels emptier inside a larger house. That's why changing circumstances before changing yourself is like repainting a cracked foundation. The color changes, the structure doesn't. Here's what most people don't understand. You are not building a successful life. You're building the person capable of creating one. Those are different projects. Everyone wants the results. Very few are willing to become the person those results require. There was a young woman who dreamed of becoming an architect. She carried sketchbooks everywhere. Beautiful ideas. Wonderful imagination. Years passed. Nothing happened. Not because she lacked talent, because every evening she waited until she felt inspired. Sometimes inspiration visited. Most days it didn't. One afternoon she met an elderly builder. His hands were rough. His clothes carried dust from decades of construction. He looked at her drawings and smiled. Then he asked one question. Do you build when inspiration arrives, or do you build until inspiration arrives? Everything changed. She stopped waiting. Every morning, she worked, whether she felt creative or not, whether she felt confident or not, whether anyone believed in her or not. Years later, people admired her success. They called her gifted. They called her fortunate. They never saw the mornings when motivation never showed up, but commitment did. Think about this. The bridge between dreams and reality is rarely excitement. It is responsibility. Because excitement is emotional. Responsibility is intentional. One disappears with your mood. The other survives your mood. That's why principles matter. Your feelings change. Your principles guide you anyway. You don't need to feel disciplined to act with discipline. You don't need to feel courageous to take courageous action. You don't need confidence before beginning. Confidence often arrives because you began, not before life has an unusual way of rewarding movement. Imagine standing at the bottom of a mountain before sunrise. Everything is dark. You can only see a few steps ahead. If you refuse to move until you can see the entire path, you'll stand there forever. But if you trust those first few visible steps, the path keeps revealing itself. Life doesn't usually illuminate the whole journey. It illuminates enough for the next decision. That requires faith, not necessarily religious faith. Faith in growth, faith in effort. Faith that today's invisible investment becomes tomorrow's visible reality. I remember meeting an old gardener who never hurried. People wondered why his garden looked so alive, flowers everywhere. Healthy trees, fruit hanging from branches, children loved visiting. Someone asked him his secret. He laughed. There isn't one. Then he pointed toward a tiny seed. You call this small. Nature calls it enough. Those words stayed with me because we spend our lives calling our efforts too small. One page, one workout, one conversation, one apology, one lesson, $1 saved. One decision, too small. Nature disagrees. Nature says, keep planting, because harvests don't appear after planting one seed. They appear after honoring the principle. That's where many lives quietly fall apart. People abandon principles because they don't see immediate harvests. Imagine digging a well. Day after day you hit dry soil. Your hands ache. Friends laugh. You've wasted enough time. So you stop unhuno to you. Water waited 3 feet below. How many dreams have ended 3 feet before breakthrough? How many businesses closed one season too early? How many marriages could have healed through one more honest conversation? How many books remained unwritten because their authors confused temporary frustration with permanent failure? Here's what most people don't understand. Pain speaks loudly. Progress whispers. When you're becoming stronger, you rarely feel stronger. When you're becoming wiser, you rarely notice wisdom growing. Growth often disguises itself as inconvenience. That's why ordinary people quit. They mistake the discomfort of development for evidence they're on the wrong path. The athlete feels sore. The student feels overwhelmed. The entrepreneur feels uncertain. The parent feels exhausted. The artist feels misunderstood. And because discomfort arrives, they assume they're failing. No, sometimes discomfort is simply proof You're expanding beyond yesterday's identity. A butterfly would probably describe transformation as destruction. Everything familiar disappears. The old form dissolves. Nothing feels stable. Imagine leaving the cocoon halfway through because change became uncomfortable. You'd never discover the wings waiting on the other side. Many people abandon personal growth exactly there. Not because transformation isn't happening. Because transformation doesn't always feel beautiful while it's happening. Let me tell you another principle. Protect your attention as if your future depends on it. Because it does. Attention is becoming one of the rarest resources in the modern world. Everyone wants a piece of it. Advertisements, notifications, opinions, argument, breaking news, entertainment, comparison, fear. Someone is always trying to rent space inside your mind. The question is, who owns your thoughts? Imagine your mind as a magnificent garden. Every conversation plants something. Every book plants something. Every video plants something. Every friendship plants something. Now imagine allowing strangers to scatter random seeds across your garden every single day. Would you be surprised if weeds appeared? Of course not. Yet people do exactly that with their minds. Then wonder why peace feels so difficult to find. I once watched an old violin maker work in complete silence. Horse passed, no music. Only careful hands, every movement intentional. Someone asked him why he never rushed. He smiled without looking up. If I hurry this part, the instrument will sing poorly for decades. That answer wasn't only about violins. It was about people. Every hurried decision leaves echoes. Every thoughtful decision creates harmony you'll hear long after the moment has passed. Principles teach you to think beyond today. That's maturity. Children ask, what do I want now? Wisdom asks, what kind of life am I creating? Those questions produce completely different futures. Think about this for a moment. Every action casts two shadows. One appears immediately. The other appears years later. Eating healthy today may feel inconvenient now. Its second shadow might be energy 20 years from now. Learning a new skill today may seem slow. Its second shadow may become opportunity when others are unprepared. Speaking kindly to someone today may seem ordinary. Its second shadow could become a lifelong friendship. The tragedy is that most people judge principles by their first shadow instead of their second. And because the immediate reward feels small, they never stay long enough to witness what patient living can create. There was a father who wanted his son to become responsible. Instead of giving endless lectures, every Saturday morning he invited the boy to help repair old bicycles they found abandoned. The son complained, "This is boring." The father simply smiled and kept working. Weeks became months. Months became years. The bicycles improved. Then something unexpected happened. The boy began repairing things that had nothing to do with bicycles. Broken fences, old furniture, neighbors' tools. One day he said something remarkable. "I guess I just don't like leaving broken things broken." His father nodded quietly, because the lessons had never been about bicycles. It had been about identity. That's another principle. You become what you repeatedly practice, not what you occasionally admire, not what you post online, not what you promise every New Year's Day. You become what your ordinary Tuesdays reveal, because ordinary days write extraordinary destinies. People often wait for perfect seasons, perfect timing, perfect confidence, perfect circumstances. Yet life keeps whispering, begin where you are, use what you have, become who you're capable of becoming from this very moment, because perfection has delayed more dreams than failure ever has. And once you understand that, another realization begins to unfold, one that changes the way you look at every setback you've ever experienced. Because what if the obstacles you spent years trying to avoid were quietly teaching you the very principles your future will one day depend on? Think about the seasons of your own life for a moment. Think about the conversations that hurt, the opportunities that disappeared, the mornings you questioned your own ability, because sometimes the lesson is never hiding inside the victory. Sometimes it is hidden inside the road that almost made you turn around, and that's where something remarkable begins to happen, because the person who learns to see difficulty as a classroom instead of a prison starts making decisions that everyone else overlooks. Let me explain what I mean. There is a difference between experiencing difficulty and becoming defined by difficulty. One shapes you, the other traps you. And the choice between the two is rarely made in one dramatic moment. It is made quietly, in the privacy of your own mind, every single day. You wake up, something doesn't go according to plan. Maybe the opportunity disappears. Maybe someone disappoints you. Maybe you gave everything you had and still didn't receive the result you hoped for. Now you stand at a crossroads that no one else can see. One road whispers, "This is proof you should stop." The other whispers, "This is part of becoming." From the outside, those two people may look exactly the same. Inside, they are walking toward completely different futures. Here's what most people don't understand. Your greatest battles are rarely fought against other people. They are fought against the stories you keep telling yourself. Think about this for a moment. Imagine two bricklayers working on the same building. Someone asks the first man, "What are you doing?" He answers, "I'm stacking bricks." The second man is asked the exact same question. He smiles and says, "I'm building a place where families will create memories for generations." Same bricks, same weather, same tools, completely different meaning. Meaning changes endurance. When your work has meaning, your strength expands. When your sacrifices have purpose, your patience grows deeper. When your vision becomes clear, temporary inconvenience loses much of its power. That is why principles begin with the way you see life before they ever change the way you live it. I once heard about a craftsman who carved wooden boats by hand. Every curve mattered. Every measurement mattered. A young apprentice became frustrated. "Why are you measuring this piece again? No one will ever notice." The old craftsman placed his hand gently on the unfinished boat and replied, "Maybe no one will notice today, but the ocean always notices." What a powerful lesson. Life is like the ocean. People may overlook your shortcuts. Your habits may hide for a while. Your compromises may seem harmless, but reality has a way of revealing what repetition has been creating all along. That's why principles are not about impressing people. They are about preparing yourself for reality. Reality doesn't negotiate. It simply reflects what you've practiced. If you've practiced honesty, reality builds trust. If you've practiced learning, reality offers opportunity. If you've practiced discipline, reality often places responsibility in your hands, not because life is perfectly fair, but because preparation allows you to recognize opportunities that others can't even see. Let me tell you something. Opportunity rarely knocks loudly. Most of the time, it whispers. And only prepared ears hear it. There was a young musician who spent years performing in nearly empty cafes. 5 people, sometimes 3. Occasionally, no one paid attention. People walked past. Conversations were louder than the music. Many nights he questioned whether anyone cared, yet every performance mattered to him. He tuned every instrument carefully. He practiced before every show. He thanked every listener. Someone asked him why he cared so much when almost nobody was watching. He answered, "I'm not practicing for today's audience. I'm practicing for the day opportunity finally arrives." Years later, it did. People called him an overnight success. There is no such thing. There are only years that nobody applauds. Those invisible years are where character is built. Those invisible years are where habits become identity. Those invisible years determine whether success strengthens you or overwhelms you. Think about a bamboo tree. For years after planting, almost nothing appears above the ground. Someone passing by might think nothing is happening. But beneath the surface, roots are spreading. Stability is developing. Strength is preparing for height. Then one season arrives when growth suddenly becomes visible. People celebrate what they can see. Nature celebrates what happened long before anyone noticed. How many people give up during the rooting season? How many dreams disappear because progress was invisible? Here's what most people don't understand. Invisible progress is still progress. The child learning to read doesn't notice each new connection forming inside the brain. The athlete doesn't feel every muscle adapting. The entrepreneur doesn't immediately recognize every lesson hidden inside every challenge. Growth often happens in silence before it appears in public. That should encourage you, because maybe the changes you've been hoping for are already beginning beneath the surface. Maybe your patience has grown more than you realize. Maybe your thinking has become wiser than it was a year ago. Maybe your ability to remain calm in situations that once overwhelmed you is evidence that something extraordinary is quietly taking place. We often expect transformation to announce itself. Instead, it usually introduces itself gently. One day, you respond differently to criticism. One day, you recover faster from disappointment. One day, you notice that fear no longer controls the same decisions. Those moments seem small, but they reveal that your identity has begun to change. And identity is where lasting change begins. Not with goals, with identity. Goals tell you where you want to go. Identity determines what you'll consistently do. A person who sees themselves as someone who learns doesn't need constant motivation to read. A person who sees themselves as someone who keeps promises doesn't constantly negotiate with discipline. A person who values integrity doesn't need an audience to do the right thing. Behavior follows belief. That's why changing your beliefs about yourself changes more than changing your schedule ever could. I remember speaking with an elderly teacher who had spent decades helping struggling students. Someone asked her, "How do you help children believe in themselves?" She smiled thoughtfully before answering. "I don't begin by telling them they're extraordinary. I begin by helping them keep one small promise to themselves." One small promise. Think about that. Not 10 promises. Not a complete transformation overnight. Just one promise. Write one chapter, walk 1 mile, wake up when you said you would, finish what you started. Speak kindly, shows up again tomorrow. Because every kept promise quietly introduces you to a new version of yourself. Every broken promise teaches the opposite lesson. That's why confidence isn't built by positive thinking alone. Confidence grows when your actions repeatedly prove your words can be trusted, including the words you speak only to yourself. Imagine hiring someone who constantly made promises they never kept. Eventually, your trust would disappear. Now imagine doing that to yourself for years. I'll start Monday. I'll exercise tomorrow. I'll save next month. I'll apologize later. Every delayed promise chips away at self-trust. Then people wonder why confidence feels distant. Confidence isn't always missing. Sometimes trust has simply been neglected. And trust can be rebuilt.